Education is the tool we need to overcome all these challenges. That's why in so many parts of the world, the far right refuses to tolerate the autonomy of universities. The far right wants to silence teachers and students and stamp out diversity. They deny science, censor the arts, and turn classrooms into instruments of domination. Critical thinking goes hand in hand with the anti-colonial struggle. Universities will continue to stand as bastions of resistance against the horrors committed in all wars. The far right fears education because they know that's where consciousness is born. Nelson Mandela said that education is the most powerful weapon we have to change the world. Even today, millions of children and young people across Africa and Latin America face enormous obstacles in accessing this fundamental right. Many lack reliable internet access, electricity, or the digital tools they need to learn. In a world increasingly driven by knowledge and technology, that means exclusion. Only 9 out of every 100 African youths enter university. Brazil's situation at the start of the year 2000 was even worse. Fewer than 7 out of every 100 people had completed higher education. It took a metal worker without a college degree rising to power to turn that picture of neglect around. During my 3 terms, and during President Dilma Rousseff's term, we created 20 new federal universities, 192 additional campuses, and 564 technological institutes. We made the teaching of Afro-Brazilian history and culture mandatory in basic education. We tripled the number of Brazilians holding a university degree. Today, that figure stands at nearly 22% of our population. Quota policy to make universities a space that truly reflects the racial and social diversity of our country. In 2010, we established the University for International Integration of the Afro-Brazilian Lusophony, UNILAB, a true living bridge across the Atlantic. Educational cooperation among countries of the Global South has the power to transform reality. We already have a very solid foundation to build on. There are 235 active agreements between Brazilian and African universities, spanning 38 countries across the continent. We can go even further by developing the concept of sister universities to deepen academic collaboration, promote student mobility, and strengthen partnerships. The CAPS Move Africa program will create between 2,000 and 2,600 scholarships for African masters and doctoral students to study in Brazil for up to 10 months. Strengthening student exchange programs through undergraduate and graduate agreements will also be essential to establishing higher education as one of the pillars of the strategic partnership between Brazil and Africa. The rise of digital technologies gives us the opportunity to expand our cooperation in ways that are faster, more flexible, and more cost-effective. Brazil has built one of the largest distance learning systems in the world, and it can multiply academic exchange without requiring students to travel or bear the associated costs. We have already offered a range of courses to students from Mozambique, Cape Verde, and São Tomé and Príncipe. Our universities can expand these initiatives to reach English and French-speaking African countries as well. My friends, hunger and poverty are not simply the result of scarcity. They are, above all, the consequence of political decisions that perpetuate the exclusion of a vast portion of humanity. Overcoming them also requires investment in scientific knowledge, agricultural innovation, and technical training. Africa has the potential to become one of the world's leading food producers. Brazil's experience shows that investing in public universities, in teaching, research, and community outreach is key to achieving food and nutritional sovereignty. Our universities have played and continue to play a decisive role in making Brazil the breadbasket of the world. They have trained generations of agronomists, veterinarians, forestry engineers, and specialists who have driven advances in seeds, soil management, biotechnology, and genetic improvement. The Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation is also a testament to how science, public investment, and state planning can transform the destiny of a nation. Last year, for every dollar invested in Embrapa, the return to Brazilian society was 27 times greater. Embrapa is already working with African Union partners to enable African technicians to receive training in Brazil and through distance learning. The Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty, launched during Brazil's presidency of the G20, also points to concrete, real-world solutions tailored to the needs of developing countries. Of the 54 African countries, 26 are already members, alongside the African Union, the African Development Bank, and the African Union Development Agency. Benin, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, Zambia, and Ethiopia were selected for the accelerated rollout of the alliance. Socioeconomic inclusion programs will be implemented in areas such as family farming, school meals, access to water, income transfers, maternal health, and sustainable livestock. The climate crisis demands that we place scientific knowledge at the center. It is our foundation for fighting the climate denialism that threatens all of humanity. It is scientists who track global warming, study its impacts, and develop solutions to protect life and the balance of our planet. Africa and Brazil are home to biomes that are fundamental to global climate stability. The Amazon and the Congo Basin forests. The idea that economic growth and environmental preservation are at odds is a false dichotomy. Brazil proves that it is possible to grow with social inclusion and respect for the environment. We are winning the fight against deforestation, advancing the bioeconomy, strengthening indigenous peoples and traditional communities, and building a new model of sustainable development. Our continents share the Atlantic Ocean, a rich and vital ecosystem on which millions of people depend. With the support of UNESCO, Brazil was the first country to incorporate ocean literacy into its school curricula. Hosting COP30 and COP32 in Addis Ababa will represent a crucial opportunity to bring the priorities of the Global South to the center of the international climate debate. Africa and Brazil share immense potential for the production of wind energy, solar energy, biofuels, and green hydrogen. Seizing that opportunity will depend on our capacity to train researchers, engineers, and highly skilled professionals. Carrying out the highest value-added stages of the critical mineral supply chain within our own borders also requires scientific cooperation and sustained investment. Without adding value to our natural resources, we risk repeating the same dependency relationship between North and South. Artificial intelligence is a strategic tool, but digital colonialism is a real and immediate threat. When concentrated in the hands of a few countries and a few corporations, algorithms become instruments of domination. Without investment in digital infrastructure, it will not be possible to overcome chronic deficits in high technology, health, agriculture, and basic education. Artificial intelligence language models also need to be built in Portuguese, in Yoruba, in Zulu, and in the many other languages of African peoples. Brazil's artificial intelligence plan includes 2 dedicated lines of funding for cooperation with Africa and Latin America. $20 million for joint projects and $10 million for access to Brazil's artificial intelligence infrastructure to foster collaboration among our researchers. The Pro-Africa program will also invest $5 million by 2030 to build networks of excellence in science and technology between Brazilian and African institutions. And in a world torn by conflict, military spending reached nearly $3 trillion in 2025, the highest figure ever recorded in all of human history. Yet there are never enough resources to invest in education and the fight against hunger. The share of official development aid directed to education amounts to just $18 billion a year, the equivalent of only 2.5 days of what the world spends on weapons. The war in Iran is the most recent sign of our collective failure to choose dialogue. Multilateralism is under relentless attack. The UN is paralyzed. International organizations that are vital to the global south, such as UNESCO and the World Health Organization, are being systematically undermined. The world must choose between doubling down on the logic of war or investing in the future of humanity. The African Union is forging a remarkable path of resistance, sovereignty, and international affirmation, one that serves as an inspiration to all of us. My dear friends, among the countless gifts that Africa has given to the world, there is the oldest continuously operating university in history, the University of Al-Qarawiyyin, founded in Morocco by a woman more than 11 centuries ago. It stands as a symbol of the continent's enduring contribution to scientific knowledge. It embodies the continent's profound contribution to human knowledge. The struggle for decolonization, for the end of apartheid, and for the recognition of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime ever committed against humanity is also expressed through this historic legacy of leadership and devotion to human dignity. Today is a call to action to renew a partnership grounded in mutual respect, solidarity, innovation, and a shared vision for the future. Brazil and Africa have so much in common: interconnected universities, sustainable production chains, food and energy sovereignty, more democratic and inclusive digital systems, and a new, more representative model of global governance. Brazil will stand by Africa on this journey. My friends, I want to draw your attention to something I've noticed all too often: the inertia that can creep into our speeches. Talking is many times far easier than doing. Talking is far easier than actually completing the projects we so often dream about together. I remember very clearly being in Mozambique to inaugurate a distance learning university that had enrolled up to 900 students. That university simply no longer functions. I had also hoped to inaugurate an antiretroviral medicine factory. As far as I know, that factory was privatized. We tried to establish Embrapa in several countries, starting with Ghana in 2010, during my second term as president. For various reasons, that didn't work out. For a very long time, and far too often, the dream of the contribution that African countries genuinely hope for from Brazil goes unfulfilled. Because too often we do not act with the same ambition in our deeds as we do in our words. I say this because our International Cooperation Agency, believe it or not, operates on a budget of just $10 million a year. It's nothing. Not for a country the size of Brazil, with Brazil's GDP and the historic debt it owes to the African continent. It is vital, truly vital, that we rethink our international relations with Africa and with Latin America. We must do better. We must turn what we say and what we believe into concrete, tangible action. And that is precisely why I wanted this meeting with African and Brazilian university rectors. Our universities do not depend on which government happens to be in power. Our universities have the autonomy to make decisions and take action independently. Our universities have a great deal, truly a great deal, to contribute to the education of African peoples in full respect of African cultures and in genuine partnership with African rectors and communities. Our federal institutes, dear Minister of Education, can do so much to support technical and professional training across Africa. We simply need the will to go there, or to bring them here, so we can work together and make things happen.